driving down this road just the other day and saw a stunning rainbow just behind me. I'll show you a picture of that. I'm just heading out of Bow Desert on the way to Wyalong, and one second. Sorry about that. I had to stop. I had to get some photographs, and I can't show them to you, unfortunately, because I shot them on film. And old school, as you know, takes a long time. First of all, I've got to finish the roll, then I've got to send them off for processing, development, then I've got to get prints and or scans so I can actually look at them and or show them to you. But in Bow Desert, I came across a fella called Sins, and he has a 4x4 business, but that's not how I came across him. I came across him because I was coming out of a side street and I saw directly ahead of me what looked like a Land Rover, a series Land Rover, but a strange looking one in the sense that it wasn't conventionally shaped. And then I noticed that it had a Nissan badge on it. And it turns out that it's actually a Nissan Patrol from 1974. I've never seen one before. They either weren't very common or I wasn't paying attention, I don't know. Everyone knows the Nissan Patrol, but we tend to think of the much later version. And of course, there's going to be very few of those 1974 models around, given that that's now 50 years old. That's the same age as my BMW. And they're getting pretty rare as well. And then coming back from having a chat with Sins about his Nissan, I bumped into this old fella, and he was sitting at the end of his driveway watching the world go by, and I stopped and had a chat and asked him why he was sitting there, and he said, well, he came down to check the mail, but sometimes he just sits there and watches the world go by. And he's about 94 or something, so he's doing incredibly well for a 94-year-old, seeing as most 94-year-olds are going to be tucked up in retirement villages being cared for, but he seems to be quite independent. He said he lives by himself. His wife passed. And he says he doesn't get to talk to too many people these days because he's not very mobile. He doesn't drive. In his words, he said he was grounded. And so he probably appreciated the fact that some silly old bugger who was taking photographs of a 50-year-old Nissan Patrol stopped to say g'day. But I'll chat to anybody. Well, within reason. Anyway, look, we're heading on out to Wyalong, and I'll take some photographs. And I promise I'll also take some with a digital camera so you can take a look at some of those. But what I really wanted to do today was to go for a ride in the Troopy, because I haven't been in it for such a long time. In fact, I don't think that I've driven it since I came back from central Queensland, which was the beginning of May, so that's a month ago. And it sat there for a month. Started first time, and is such a joy to be driving in, I gotta tell you. And that's not because it's smooth and comfortable or even easy to drive. It's a manual rather than auto. It's got wind down windows rather than auto or electric windows. it bumps about on the road because it's a truck-like suspension. But there's something about the character of it that you just don't get in newer vehicles. You know, driving around in newer cars are a bit soulless in the sense that they want to do a lot of things for you, such as turn on the wipers or keep a safe distance between you and the car in front, or apply the brakes. And of course, in later model cars, particularly electric cars, actually drive the car for you. But insulated from the world in that way and not in control, is it fair to say that not only are you not really out there in the world, because you may as well be sitting at home watching your telly with a gigantic screen, you're not even driving. And part of the pleasure of being in the car is the driving of it, surely. Otherwise you're a passenger, and as a passenger you can get very frustrated when you're thinking, why aren't they passing? Why aren't they going faster? Why aren't they going slower? Why are they so close to the center lane? Anyway, I'll enjoy this drive. We haven't done much with the cars. As I said, I haven't even driven the Troopy in a month, and I'm still waiting on a filter set. I'll tell you a story about that, actually. I went into Nissan in Beaudesert to inquire about filters for the Navara, and he started rattling off prices, but I stopped listening after he said that the fuel filter was $150. So I thought, if the fuel filter is $150, how much is the oil filter? How much is the air filter? Well, you know, probably $300 or $400. And is it worth spending all of that money for the genuine items when in fact you can get them aftermarket? Now, don't get me wrong, if in fact, you know, there's a reasonable price difference, I'll probably still opt for the genuine, but in this case that is a massive difference, given that I can jump online and ordered, as I did, a filter kit which includes the fuel filter, the oil filter and the air filter for the Nissan Navara from Automotive Superstore for about $78 or something. So let's say $80, click and collect, because there's a pickup spot not far from me. However, when I ordered them, which was I think 31 May from memory, they said they'd be ready to pick up by 3rd or 4th of June. Well, it's now the 11th today, and it's actually my sister's birthday today, the 11th. She was born in 62, if I'm not mistaken. So she would be 64 had she still been with us, but she passed in 2010. So she would have only been 48, not even 50. But she had lung problems, and I think eventually they got the better of her, which is a terrible shame. So young. That's a by the by. I ordered these filters from Automotive Superstore on 31 May. They said they'd be ready by 3rd or 4th of June. And I checked, I think it was on the 4th, to see if they were ready for pickup, and I got a message back, and this is via their contact centre. You actually cannot call them to ask about existing orders, believe it or not. And this is the problem with
with retail stores these days, and particularly online stores, but I'll get back to that. I messaged them and I got a message back to say they'd be ready for pickup on the 4th, which was that very day. But I didn't hear anything from them. And so a few days later I sent another message saying, can I get an update? And I was polite and civil, but I didn't hear anything back. So a few days after that I sent a message to say, I haven't had any response, can I get an update? And still got no response. And so I called and discovered, in fact, that you can't call to inquire about an existing order. You have to either send off the contact me form on their website, or on the phone they gave me a mobile number that I could send a text message to, which I did. And I got a text message back to say that there'd been a delay and that it may not even be until the end of this week or early next week that I can pick them up. Can I wait? And I said, well, I can wait, but however, it would have been nice to kind of get a bit of an update, you know. And this is where I want to make this comment about how communication and good old customer service seem to be very much a thing of the past. They just think if somebody inquires about an order and it's not ready, well, we can just safely ignore them. And what can they do? They've already paid. And fair enough. Well, it's not fair enough. In fact, it's not at all fair. It's not nearly good enough. However, the point is, though, that I still haven't got those filters. So I still can't do that service that I wanted to do on the Navara. But even if I did have them without anywhere to do them undercover, because as you know, my shed is full and the garage is full, and I service my vehicles outside, I wouldn't be able to do it. So that'll be one of the very first jobs that we do when we get those filters, which might well be the end of the week or early next week. The first job will be to do that service. I've got the oil already, it's just a matter of waiting on the filters. And I've even got the filter tool, because in the Navara, it's tucked down alongside the engine, quite a long way down, and you can't reasonably get a hand in as well as have the strength to be able to grip the filter and turn it. And so the easy way to do it is with this filter tool, which is, and I'll show you a picture of it, but it's basically a 3-pronged tool with a socket-sized nut on the top. And when you stick a socket on it and crank it, it cranks in those 3 arms, gripping the filter, so you can then turn it. And equally it works to tighten it as well, not that you want to do it up super tight, but it would probably help to be able to do it at a distance, because it is quite deep in the engine. There's no way of getting in there. So we'll do a video of that when we have that filter kit, which is a long-winded way of saying that I apologise for all of the delays. We'll get there. But the purpose for today was to jump in the Troopy and go for a drive, and I can do that more easily. Millie's actually in at the vet today getting a dressing change, and it's not easy to take her around in the Troopy, given that there's really nowhere for her to sit that's sort of safe, in the sense that in the back of the Troopy there's a bunch of stuff, such as all of that bedding and everything else. But even if I kind of plonk her down in an area where it's clear, there's nothing for her to kind of like secure herself to in the event that we're going around corners or braking hard, so she'd be potentially sliding up and down or side to side, which is not the best when you've got dodgy old legs. I know, I have dodgy old legs. So we're at Lake Wyalong. You're admiring the view of the lake, which is stunning, actually. I mean, you know, the weather is not the best, but it certainly makes for interesting photographs, given that the light is just so soft.